not available for this weekend, and given the fact that there are some players coming back from South Africa, how much of a test of your resources will this week be in terms of the game on Friday?
Yeah, I think everyone's a bit stretched at the moment, but yeah, we still have a group going down to Galway. I don't have that list in front of me, so I'm not exactly sure who's on that list in front of you. Yeah, no, like it's, we had a very physical game against Sharks the weekend. They came with real intent, physical intent, fair bit of skill as well. And yeah, they really tested a lot of facets of the game. So I thought it was a really good game, hopefully for the neutrals that were watching. Great atmosphere in the RDS, which was fantastic. Something we want to really build on over the course of this season. And now we're down to Galway. Watch that game, Munster Connacht on Friday night, and Connacht's a great win for them with the new pitch. And again, the atmosphere looks pretty electric down there as well as it can be. So for our guys, just trying to get our minds ready for that physical battle that it will be, but also being able to think clearly in terms of trying to execute our plan and trying to sniff out some of Connacht's threats and nullify some of those threats that they have as well.
How concerned are you that you conceded 5 tries last week, and does that maybe give a bit of a roadmap for Connacht to look at ahead of the game this weekend?
Yeah, definitely. There are, we've some different combinations in the team. Like, for some guys, it's pretty early days, and some are building some of those relationships, playing relationships. So that does take a bit of time. But we did get exposed in a few different areas. We talked about around some of the set piece in particular, where Sharks do a good job. But Sharks again, like they've got big, strong ball carriers that can sit players down, or can attack shoulders. And when they obviously sit players down, like they've got some serious pace as well. You'll see the speed, Fassi for his try, Abrahams as well looked electric on the left wing. So they definitely causes problems. Werner Koch, again, another very, very physical player. And Connacht have threats as well. They players that have a good understanding of us as well. We talked last week about Noel McNamara from a coaching point of view. This week it's from a recent playing point of view. The number of Leinster guys down there, we know they'll be highly motivated. Some good characters that we know well. So yeah, we know we're in for a really tough battle again. But that's the beauty of the competition is at the moment. Really exciting games all across the board. And it's just gone up a level. URC, I think it's the tournament. The stakes are, there's the margins are fine. I think, and to qualify because the stakes are high because it's not just. There's the games the week to week, but like it's the knock-on consequences, the qualification for Champions Cup and playoffs later in the season. So it's very, very tight. So the preparation that needs to go in on a week to week basis has gone up, I think, a few gears. So which is great, I think, for the competition. But you can see some really good, high quality games all across the board every weekend.
The fact that their squad contains a pretty healthy sprinkling of former Leinster players now, does that add an extra kind of edge to it, as if you didn't need an edge already?
Yeah, I think there's always been a good edge in like Connacht Leinster games, and Connacht have had our number on many occasions as well over recent years. So, it's again we just make sure we can control what we can ourselves, which is preparing well this week. As I said, it's a short turnaround. Different provincial squads are stretched at the moment. But making sure we just prepare well with the gang that we have. So get excited about going down to Galway Friday night game, and we're expecting a bit of rain, a bit of wind, and trying to adapt to conditions on the day then.
Just before we finish up, you mentioned earlier that you had a look back at that Connacht Munster match. Not that you need reminding, but the sort of understanding there is between the crowd and the players and how they kind of will each other on, if you understand what I mean. That in itself is a pretty big challenge as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you could see straight from the start of the game, wasn't it? Like there was a scrum and Connacht with a penalty, creates a lot of energy for them in the game. Similar then, a couple of minutes later, they win another scrum penalty and it's the same, and they're into the corner and they're on the attack right from the very off. Jack Carty missed a couple of kicks at goal, and if he kicks some of those kicks, they're further ahead potentially. So but they could score some good tries during the course of the game, and for large parts they were the dominant team. So yeah, no, we know it's going to be a serious challenge. I know obviously the Connacht had lost their first three games, but they're on the road, Ulster and then in South Africa, and even Jack Carty, the presence that he has in the team in terms of how he organised the attack, very good kicking game, and pulling the strings really for them. So I thought he was probably the key person on the night. But it's off the back of a very strong platform that their forwards gave them into the game. Obviously Finlay Bealham was man of the match, so it sort of says it all. Tighthead leading the way. So for our guys, making sure that we're ready for that type of game. I thought Connacht came with a lot of good aerial pressure, line-out wise, and as I've touched on already, the scrum gave them real good access into the game.
All right, good man. Thanks. Have a good week.
Thanks.
Hi Leo, how are things? Joe here. How are you?
Hi Joe. Great.
Just to start off, you've offered a short-term contract to Tyke McAvoy. I was just wondering what has really impressed you about him that's encouraged you to give him a shot.
Well, Ty came in and he trained with the senior team during pre-season. With James Tracy being out of action for a while was something that we wanted to explore anyway. Because Dan and Ronan have in recent times been selected for Irish camps. Then we have our two young academy hookers, John McGee, great to see him come off the bench and score try the weekend. Lee Barron played with Trinity the weekend, so it was great. But with James out and the two lads more than well, and we hope that both are picked for November. So we just needed a bit of additional coverage. So Ty played in the A games. He was involved in those three games. And he's gone really well. So he gives it just something a little bit different. He's built up some decent experience over the last number of years, primarily in England. So yeah, no, it's great to have someone of his experience come into the group. We're down in energy at the moment, so he spent time here as well, come through the pathway, obviously with come through with Dundalk initially. So played some underage rugby with Leinster as well. So no, he's been a really good addition, really, really positive, I have to say. So deserves his opportunity, and hopefully he can kick on now as well.
The last time you were down at the sports ground at the end of last season, it was a great game, tight at the end as well, but you came out the right side of that. What struck me about Connacht against Munster was that their pack were very clinical in the execution, particularly of the set piece, and when they got their maul going, it was good. What's the key elements of this game that you need to get right to come out on the right side of it again?
Yeah, well, if you even think back to the two games we played, Tom Daly, if you remember, got sent off for that high shot early in the game, first couple of minutes when we played them in the league game. But the first half, even playing against 14 men like Connacht, were very dominant in certain parts. But it was only when we really got a grip of the game in the second half then we scored a good few tries. But the game in Europe was incredibly tight, and real sort of tit for tat type of game, where we were scrambling. We scored some good tries. Connacht came back into the game strong. So it's dealing with the intensity that Connacht will bring, and making sure that we can control what we can, and impose our game then as well. So it's trying to, like would be every bloody game that we play, but it's, controlling the threats that they have and trying to impose our own game. You talk about the set piece, yeah, like, Connacht, huge moments, they go for a very ambitious throw, just goes over Ty Burns' hands at the tail, who's competing for Munster, and, they get their rumble on and Finlay Bealham scores his tries. So, and we've already talked about earlier in the piece, just in terms of the energy that they get from some of the scrum penalties in the game. So, it's going to be a good test for us. We always want to pride ourselves on our own set piece work. So, it should be a good challenge for us.
And just last one for me, in terms of the positives to take away from the Sharks games, particularly considering you had to do a little bit of reconfiguring. Gary Ringrose came in unexpectedly, or earlier certainly than expected. How pleasing was it to go on and score 8 tries and play such free-flowing rugby, and when the game was tight, to be the team to kick on and take the game with the scruff of the neck in the second half?
Yeah, like trying to deal with the disruptions at the start. So yeah, losing Jack Cullen in the warm-up, Reece comes in and he's gone in the first 5 minutes. Martin Maloney, who originally wasn't, he's there as a sort of covering extra, and suddenly he's into the game in the first, like literally 5 minutes in. So playing number 8, which was, I thought Martin was excellent during the course of the game. So he's an unbelievable professional, and that's what we said. We say to our guys all the time: always be ready, always be ready. So and that's, you got to be ready to take your opportunity when it comes along. And sometimes it happens as quickly as that. So Martin's an amazing professional and goes about his business unbelievably well. So yeah, delighted for him and how well he went in the game. Because he has a huge role to play there. So yeah, but there was a few other disruptions. Losing Luke McGrath on half time. Ryan Baird started the second half then as well. So another bit of reshuffle there as well. But I thought that the guys adapted well on the day. Yeah, that's, you got to be ready. So you can plan, for the perfect pictures during the course of the week. But sometimes there's certain things you can't plan for. So thankfully we had the coverage in place just about, and we were able to deal with the disruptions pretty well.
Thanks, Leo.
Thank you.
Leo, it's Don here. In the last couple of games, Jimmy O'Brien has been playing a kind of a roving game in offence, turning up at 5'8" with a big boot, and then at left centre and sometimes on the wing. Is that the way you intend any fullback to play?
Yeah, I think particularly for us, it's like a second 10, really, isn't it? So it takes the pressure off. Particularly Jimmy with his left foot as well gives another kicking option, very very useful to have. And it's just that, another pair of hands. Charlie Nato is a very good distributor as well. So he's played 12, and at 15, if you wind the clock back far enough, he's played a little bit of 10 as well. But in particular, 12 and 15. So taking the pressure off whoever's playing 10 for us. Obviously, Johnny was at the weekend, and Jimmy then as well. His roaming ability. So what Jimmy has is very good distribution skills. As I said, that left-footed kicking, but it's also his speed, endurance. So his ability to be able to work repeatedly to offer an attack, but even defensively in terms of the amount of coverage that he would get through in the backfield in particular, due to that speed endurance part. So the role of the 15 is very very important for us.
Thanks, Leo.
Hello, Leo. It's William from Galway Bay here.
Hi, William.
Looking forward to having you down on Friday night. I'm just wondering, do you think the South African teams have really lifted the standard overall in this competition, both having to go down to South Africa, and now they seem to be coming with a much better game plan this season? The Lions have won 2 games up here. They really struggled last year on the road.
Yeah, they get 3 wins, didn't they, Lions?
Yeah, 3.
Was it 3 wins the Lions have? Obviously Sharks with 2 wins anyway. Did the Lions get 3 wins?
I'm not sure. I think they won their 2 tour games up here. Maybe
But they had 3. I think they won 3 tour games.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was down in South Africa. I might have missed one, but they're coming with this real determination now that maybe was missing a little bit last year.
Well, I think there was a false sense from the public maybe as to where the South African teams were, because they're coming out of COVID, no real competitive action for a long time. I know they played their internal Curry Cup, but for them to get an understanding what the travel is, so there's a totally different understanding from their point of view. As in, I was saying this, but I'm not sure everybody was listening. There are unbelievable strong rugby traditions in those teams, and when you're in South Africa, like, to get an understanding, like, it's, for us, we're a small country and we've soccer, GAA, whereas South Africa, a country far far bigger in terms of population, but they're also, like, its rugby is 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of sporting pecking order, and like they're blessed with good genetics of size and speed as well. So they've an amazing talent pool to pick from, and they're only going to get stronger. So from the competition, it's unbelievably exciting, and it's going to focus the mind, because for us, there's trying to make them. Obviously, everyone wants to. All the teams that start off in the competition want to try and win the competition, I'm sure. But then if you're not winning the competition, obviously you're trying to qualify for playoffs, and you're also trying to qualify for Champions Cup, because the dynamic of the South African teams now being involved in European Cup action, so obviously they have to deal with that as well. So yeah, there's many variables there to talk about, but the margins are incredibly tight, and you can see we knew this at the start of the season, and if you slip off the towards the top end of the table, it's going to be hard work to try and get back up there. So every point is incredibly important because it's only 18. Like obviously you're 18 games. It's not a huge amount. We're already 4 games down, 5 games after this weekend, and you're a fair chunk into the season already. You saw last year, obviously, the South African teams, they started, as you say, where they lost the majority of the games away from home, very few wins, whereas now it's the complete opposite of that at the moment. So they've picked up a lot of wins already, and we already know how hard it is to go down there. So very few teams from the Northern Hemisphere are winning down there because, again, the conditions and all the rest and the quality of the opposition. So, yeah, it's going to be a real handful for teams now because there's huge consequences of, say, not qualifying for Europe. For like if we weren't to qualify for a European Cup, like we know there would be huge consequences of that. So definitely, I think it sharpens the focus for certainly the provincial teams here because European Cup, Champions Cup, crowds, etc. As you know, we go to the Aviva for one of our Champions Cup games and how that would be the knock-on consequences of that. So it's very, very important. Like every game is a huge game because you want to get yourself in a good position for playoffs, but European qualification as well on top of that. So yes, the stakes are high to your original question, but in terms of yes, the South African teams, being more familiar with travel and being a much more dangerous proposition now as well.
Just looking back to last Saturday's game, is that the sort of game that you watch almost with your hands over your eyes at times? Because it was end to end. It was great for a neutral, but I wondered for a head coach, are you there? Please go back to the system, or do you just have to go? This is going to be one of these games, and our guys just have to score more than they do. It's because it was real high quality and a bit of flair from both sides. I mean, both sides seem to be playing off the cuff a bit.
Yeah.
Great to watch.
Yeah, well, I think it was, and that's what you want in terms of a game. Yeah, so it had a bit of everything in it. 2 teams going hard at it. We had to deal with the disruptions. We did some good stuff in the first half. We looked a bit scrambled at times in the first half as well. So that was really the message to half time. It was just the composure piece. Get control back in the game. But the players, to be fair, they're brave at times. You think to try that Johnny scores, but how that starts with Johnny across field kick to Gary, make a break up the sideline, go through a sequence. Some of the support play from some of the forwards in particular to make an impact at that breakdown to keep the play going, and Johnny scores by that kick through for himself, identifying space again. So, but some brilliant scores throughout the course of the game, and Sharks played their part as well in the party, and they scored some good tries as well. Bits that we can need to try and fix up as well moving forward because we don't want to be exposed like that again. So yeah, no, as I said, I had a bit of everything. But again, that's what the crowds want to see. We had an amazing crowd as well, and that's something we want to build on. Hopefully we get some travelling support down to Galway. And again, we have another Derby game the week after in the Aviva, but for now we're focused on Connacht. But again, like the Derby games, you want the crowds from both teams to come out, don't you, in their droves really, because we want to get those types of games. So again, the product has to be exciting for people to come and watch. But again, hopefully, I think the crowd probably got bang for buck and plenty of talking points from the game.